Eli, we're done. Can you make sure you do the punk rock one?
Let's go!
Very casual. I mean, you've heard us. We try to make people feel comfortable, but
no, you guys are great. Yeah, it's
Thank
not you, it's me.
I
It's just the whole first.
but I feel
time.
you. Yeah,
You know?
we still get nervous. All right,
Ready.
what's up, world? Welcome back to the Primas podcast. I am Cindy. Hey, Jessica, ¿cómo estás, prima?
Hi, Prima. How are you? You have a new background, new apartment.
I moved to Miami and living free. No, I'm playing.
It.
Yeah, we
all
moved.
Those plants.
Yeah, you see the palm trees?
You see them? I see the little gnats everywhere.
You know what? Our gnats didn't move with us, so haha, joke's on you. I think we got rid of them for sure. Who knows? They're always welcome in our home now. It's like their family. We've got to know them. Anyways, gnat story. So today, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about financial education. And I know that doesn't sound like the most super cool thing in the world, but that's why we want to talk about it. And we're going to try to make it super cool because the person that we have on, she's like relatable, she's cool. She is a certified personal finance coach, which as I've gotten to know her reminds me a lot of like a personal trainer or like a nutrition coach. And so I'm super excited to talk about this because I'm going to be honest, to me, it's such a boring, finances or like when I took economics in high school or when people talk about retirement stuff, all of that, I'm like, oh no, like, and I feel like that's common. I feel like a lot of people get turned off because we don't really know what we're doing, but welcome, Mariela. Welcome to the Primas podcast.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get you excited about money.
Yay.
Yes. And so Mariela is a personal finance coach, and I want to pick your brain. But you give classes, and I kind of wanted to ask a little bit if you can give us a little in a nutshell, like what is a personal finance coach?
Heated of.
And yes.
Yeah, so a personal finance coach is kind of like how you were saying, it's like if you were seeing a personal trainer. It's somebody who you're going to make goals with. It's somebody who's going to hold you accountable. It's somebody who's going to support you and be your cheerleader. And it's somebody who's going to provide you with information also on the subject. So, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just focused on finance. And some people need that because personal finance, like you said, is something that sometimes people don't want to even think about. They just want to pretend that, we're not in debt, that the money, because you could use credit cards, you could use cards. So you really don't even have to like use cash. So you don't even know if you have it sometimes or not. So it's just like I said, a support. And awesome. It's a way to get knowledge.
Yay. Well, I'm so glad to have you on. I brought my bank statements, so we're going to use me as a guinea pig. Okay. No, awesome. I'm just kidding. No,
question number one.
Yeah. Question number one. How do I do? No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think this also is an important topic. We do need to discuss this. Talking about money is never easy, but we want to make it educational and fun and just things to think about the future, because I never thought about this in my 20s and I'm in my 30s now. I have a daughter, so I'm thinking about college finances for my daughter. I'm thinking about buying a house. So these are very important ideas or discussions we need to have amongst ourselves and not be so taboo, like, oh, that's my money, or I don't do that, or,
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that, that is one of my personal missions in being a coach is just to normalize talking about money. Like, just like you talk about what you did this weekend. It's like, oh, um, what are you investing in right now? And is it making you money or not? What financial goal have you recently accomplished? Or how did you get the money to go on that trip? Those are conversations that we need to have. Just like you text your friends like, oh, there's a sale right now, at Target for shampoo. You also want to text your friend and be like, there's a free financial class. Let's go.
Yeah.
You need that buddy sometimes. But yeah, and then everything with friends is fun, so even just doing things together. So one thing I recently did, my sister got her friends together and we did a class on taxes because it's tax season. But I really loved that they did that as a group, as friends, and I would like to see more of that.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That's awesome. I would definitely
host that, huh?
Yeah.
And it could be like, there's so many topics about money. It could be on anything, but just kind of like, hey friends, let's do something different today. And you can, whatever, if you could want a drink or if you want tea, bring whatever you want and let's
make it
meet
fun
and let's make it fun. Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm in the right steps to recovery because I'm very transparent about my debt. And everybody always, my only debt is like student loans. I know that's still nothing to be proud of, but I've always got the same reaction because I've always been transparent about it. Like, it is what it is. I feel like a lot of people are in debt or some people have like their things that they're not great at. For me, it's always been money. But it's like, one, I know I'm aware of the problem. Two, I'm talking about it. I don't want to hide it anymore, and not that I ever hid it, but when I became a student was the first time that I'm like, oh, how did that happen? Like, I accrued so much horrible debt that I'm like going to pay back not for the rest of my life, but it's just, I could have been smarter about it. And so
it happens fast, I think with debt, it's just, it happens so fast, you
scary.
From like zero to like whatever, like so much money, and to pay it off, it takes a long time, and that's why some people, I've heard a lot of people, especially like right now you're talking about student loans, like so many people say like, I'm just going to pay them off for the rest of my life. And that's like something they've come to terms with. And I'm just like, no, why would you want that?
Yeah.
Like, that is not something I don't know, like, even though it's student loans, even though you got something, you got your education, something great came out of that, it doesn't mean you have to pay for it for the rest of your life.
And do you think that it's because we don't know? Because with you saying that, it's just like, I know now, like I have goals, like personal goals. So I know where my finances are. I know where I want to be and how to get there.
Good.
But for a really long time, I did think like, I'm going to pay this off for the rest of my life. There's no way that I can ever, I owe like 30,000. And I'm like, and I got comfortable with that idea. Like, oh, it'll just be like a car bill, like a phone bill. Like, I'll just pay it off for the rest of my life. So do you have any tips on like maybe where that comes from and how we can be better at looking at it that way, in a better way?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I think that $30,000 is a lot of money, so I could understand why that would just seem like it's going to take forever. But that was exactly my number. That was my number when that was the highest, or where my debt got $30,000. And I think you end up just feeling really tired, of just every month getting your hard-earned money and having it be gone, kind of before it hits the bank. So I think that's kind of what you feel when you start to wonder like, well, what can I do about it? So I think for sure, you just have to feel ready for it, because it takes a lot of commitment, and it takes a plan, and it takes persistence, to pay your debt. But you can, and some people pay it off really fast.
So like maturity.
I'm sorry?
Maturity is what I'm hearing, huh?
It could be maturity, but like I said, it could just be like also, I don't know, just
you feel like it's a burden?
Yeah, it's an elephant in the room,
Yeah.
And then it's, I guess, maturity in the sense where you want more, like you just want more. Like Jessica was saying, she wants to buy a house, she wants to. And then it's like, okay, well, you can buy a house with student loan debt, it's not going to hold you back. But if you want to build wealth, if you want to travel, if you want to just do more stuff, then then that's going to motivate you to make a plan, to pay off your debt. And I mean, some people, you could keep your regular job to pay your debt, but other people who really are tired and want to get it done with, they start to hustle. They have their regular job and then they go get everybody's talking about side hustles right now, but that's how you really get it done, like by just increasing your income. That's one tip for sure to pay off debt.
I really like your Money and Wellbeing message and your Instagram name. So Money and Wellbeing. How did you come up with that connection? Like, why do you think money is important to our well-being?
Wow. I think it was just, for me, it was just really easy. I didn't start feeling better, in my everyday life until I had my finances in control. So it was just, I just think they just go hand in hand, and not to say that you need to have one before the other, you can work on both of them at the same time. But I think when you educate yourself about money, to me, that's self-care because of the emotions that come from that, I think having that control, of our money just makes us feel like, it makes us feel like, inspired. It makes us feel just like happier, because then you have things to look forward to, and that's where the well-being comes in, where, okay, so now I have a budget, now I know that, and if I work on my budget, then that's going to give me money to go to the things that I love. So, and that is very personal. It's different for everybody. It could be, I want to get a massage every month, or I want to take one big trip every year, whatever it is. And if you don't have that control with your money, then it's really hard to have the money for those things,
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it's kind of like a stressor in a sense, because when I don't pay my bills, I get stressed out. And even though I'm really good about paying my bills, if I'm late or I just don't like to pay my bills late, it becomes a stressor, this burden on my shoulders. And that ties into your well-being, because if not, then I start thinking about it and it causes like anxiety. So like longevity, I think they go hand in hand. But I've met some people, and I don't know if you've came across clients like this, where like my parents, they don't care about paying bills on time. And I'm just like, do they care at all? Or because in my early youth, like in my early 20s or late teens, right, when I was 18, I got a bunch of credit cards sent to me, and I charged off 2 credit cards by 19 because I was just like, oh, who cares? Like, what are they going to do? Come look for me because I didn't pay my Victoria's Secret credit card.
Right.
And then I learned like 5 years later, I was like, oh, shoot, I got into collections, and I'm like, oh, this is what it does to your credit. And I finally started looking into my credit in my mid-20s. And then I saw like, oh, it does mean something. And then I tried to apply somewhere else for a credit card, and then I got declined. So I didn't like that aspect, like not feeling trustworthy or not feeling responsible. Like I felt like I blew my opportunity. So around 5 or 6 years ago, I started improving my credit score. I started paying off old debt. I learned not to ever settle on any debt, but to pay off in full. And yeah, to not max out my credit cards, or I don't know. It was just these little hard things throughout my life I had to learn. But I would say like definitely it's a stressor. If you care about money or care about things like that, like your credit score, and you're like reflecting negatively, I don't know. I would just feel it like stressed out.
Yeah, it's definitely a stressor for sure. I mean, they say that, financial issues are like the leading cause of divorce, in so many families. But beyond that, I remember when I wasn't good with money, my husband and I, our marriage wasn't as happy, like there was just that burden and that kind of that weight of like, God, we can't do anything fun because we have all this debt, or we can't. And I think that even when you were asking Cindy about well-being, I feel like being good with money has made our marriage so much better. Like we never fight about money ever. And it's not because, oh, we're rich. We are not. We just talk about it now. We have conversations. We make goals together. Um, we have things to look forward to because we have those money conversations and because we made these agreements of, we're not going to carry bad debt anymore, which was the credit cards that we use to go eat, or to go buy clothes. So now, talking about credit cards, now the more you learn, then you learn like, oh, if I value traveling, I can use credit cards to get points, to help me with that, so I'm going to use credit cards, but I'm going to pay my monthly bill in full every month. So you just learn, like, I always say, like, it's like a game, like, yes, I know you're trying to have me carry debt so you can make money off me, but no, like, I'm going to use you to help me get more trips, um, so that's just kind of what I've learned with time. Yeah. And just again, of not ever, like, I know how it felt, just to carry, to not be good with money and to carry debt. It just was, I look at those times as just really hard times. And since overcoming that, now it's like, oh, I'm never going to go back there, and I won't. And I haven't.
I think it's also a generational thing because my mom, or I just remember my mom, my grandparents, they were also afraid of money, and bills. And I remember we could never turn on the AC or the heater in the car or in the house. We would do everything to adjust to the weather or whatever, how we felt, but never ever turn on the heater or, whatever, or like in the car. And I would always, I wouldn't even question it. I just was like, we don't do that. And then when I got my own car, I felt weird. And I was like in my 20s and I'm like, I'm going to turn on, no one's watching. I'm going to turn on like we just had this thing and like turn off the lights. Like it was just so much fear.
Oh my God, the lights. That's my dad. I'm still like that. Right? And I live in, yeah. And I remember I had a roommate and like my boyfriend, they would always have lights on. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? You're wasting electricity. And there I am sounding like my dad, but I get it. It's like generation thing, right? We just picked up from our parents.
Man, I hear you. I think what I remember most growing up is just, I don't have money. That was it. I don't have money. So then, I grew up saying that too, and I'm like, what am I talking about? Because I had money, but I think it was just so instilled in me that I was saying it. And I'm like, oh God, like, no, I need to stop that. But yeah. And then you grow up and you're like, oh my God. So all this time, like, there's so many things that, when I grew up that I thought things were just like new, like, oh, it was air conditioning like just invented, or heaters, like, or did cars just start having air conditioner? And then I learned, like, no, this has always been, it's just that it wasn't something that
forbidden.
It was forbidden. Yeah. And the lights is so funny. I know my brother talks about that. He said he still has issues with that.
And don't you think it's crazy how, okay, so we're like that, right? We're super exaggerated to one degree, but then come quinceañeras, baptisms, any party, and we use any excuse. And then when people go all out, I always used to think like, what? That's contradictory. And it's not even about the person we're celebrating. It's about we're all getting fucked up. We're all get the most food, like jumping castles. I mean,
stacks and
like,
stacks of beer, and it's like my
Well, I was
first
gonna
kid's birthday
say,
party.
yeah.
there's always
DJs.
money for beer. There was always money for beer and tequila. Yeah, and it's true with it. The first birthday, they say it's not really for the child. Like if you go to any first birthdays, and I did this with my first daughter, she cried the whole time.
I know.
And I'm like,
poor
who is this
baby.
for?
Yeah.
It's not for her. She's like miserable. But there were so many people, everybody wanted to carry her. She was only one, so she hadn't taken a nap. It was the worst day.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like we do. Yeah, I remember that.
Are you a Mexican or a Mexicant?
Oh, I'm guilty of that too. My daughter's first birthday, I went all out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Mariela, I'm a little traumatized from a lot of my stuff growing up. And so what I've done with money, my money situation is that because I have debt, my student loans, because that's it. I mean, just I like to be on top of it because I used to be scared. I used to be scared of not being able to pay my rent on time or just having an empty bank account or not having gas. So like after I became a mom, I'm like, that's completely, I don't care what you have to do. Don't spend money then. And I literally stopped spending money. That was my strategy. I'm not super frugal. Like anybody who knows me, I spend money on like things that I prioritize, but there's other things that I sacrifice that I'm like, oh, I don't care if I wear the same clothes like all the time if I can get away with it, or the same shoes, or there's just more important things that I'd rather my money go to, that are about self care or like about my daughter and stuff. But I don't know if you have anything in that where is that bad that I don't like to
Oh,
spend money?
I
Like, is
don't.
that like, well, okay, I get that's your strategy, but it's not healthy? Like, I don't know. What do you think about it?
Well, it depends what your. It depends what your goal is with that, right? So, like, what is your goal with not spending money? You
I
know,
think, yeah, for like
I
a
think
long
that's
time,
like the first thing. So, I'm asking you, like, what do you think?
yeah, I think I used to spend money so
Is it just
recklessly when I
because
was
you
in
don't
my
want to ever run out of money?
sorry. I used to be very reckless in my 20s. I used to just spend. I didn't care. I was living with my grandparents. I paid for my bills, but I had like 3 bills. So all of the extra money I would, whatever. And so I used to get so scared and uncomfortable for like 2 weeks until I got my next check because I was on zero, like gas. Like I had to ask my grandparents for gas. Like, what am I doing? And so when I had my daughter, I just was like, if you don't spend money on eating out, it's not healthy for you anyway. On trying to wear the latest trends and trying to keep up on makeup, on your hair, on your just all of these things that I started to think those are not important things to me anymore. And I'm not cheap, not that there's anything wrong with that, I guess, but some people do perceive me as cheap because instead of me taking my daughter to a museum, which I think museums are great, or to a movie, I'd rather we be outside in nature because I feel like there's so much to
Mm-hmm.
learn, but that's not spending money. So I think
Well,
my car.
there's a difference between being cheap and being frugal. So it sounds to me more like you're frugal, where, because it sounds like all the choices you're making are, you've thought about them. They're well thought out and and I think what you're hitting on right now is your values. You don't value things that are materialistic, you value more like experiences. And you want your daughter to appreciate nature, you know? And I think that's great. So no, I mean, if you put it like this, there's never anything wrong with living your life according to your values. And I think that's how we should all live, for sure. I mean, and I think that in order to be good with money, and I think it really comes down to that. It really comes down to, what is it that matters to you? And then you don't have to apologize. You don't ever have to wonder, is it good? Is it bad? What are people going to think? Do they think I'm cheap? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're living your life according to your terms, and you're hopefully, with the money that you're saving, by not shopping a lot, by not, you're either using it to pay off your student loans, you have your money, you have an emergency fund and a high yield savings account, you're starting to invest, just starting to make your money work for you. Because it's never okay to just have your money sitting, in a checking account, because it's not doing anything for you. Like, you always want your money like working. The only money that should be in your checking account is the money that's going to go out every month to your bills, or money that's going to go to your um like automated like expenses, or automated like accounts, like your savings, your if you have index funds, whatever it is um that you're working on. So yeah, don't just have your money sitting there. It's, if you're saving money, then definitely put it to work.
You've used that word twice, and I was wondering when you met what you meant by investment, like investment in stocks.
It depends, investment, it could be in yourself too. Like maybe you want to educate yourself, like me, I got my coaching certification because it's something that is really important to me. And I wanted to not only keep like this information to myself, I wanted to just learn how to share it with other people, so that was an investment. Um, but it's also, maybe you want to start investing in stocks, so you'll open a brokerage account and you can do ETFs, you can do bonds. There's so many things you can do. But again, you have to educate yourself, and that's either through listening to podcasts like this, or it's checking books out of the library, or yeah, not everything. You don't have to pay for everything. That's like the best part of it, that there's so much free information out there. There's books, there's articles, there's podcasts, there's YouTube. But also, like I said, there's never anything wrong with investing in yourself and just investing in a coach or investing in books or in classes.
Yeah, definitely. Like doing your
But
homework.
even a high yield savings account is an investment, because they could pay you 0.5% versus a regular savings account is 0.00,
Yeah.
You make nothing. And sometimes they charge you. Sometimes like the banks will charge you if you don't have a certain amount, or if you take withdrawal. So I consider where I have my emergency fund an investment, because it's not a lot, but I could make like $50 a month, depending on how much I have in there. So yeah, there's so many ways you can invest. Real estate. So the fact that you want to buy a house is awesome.
You're using so many terms, and I'm like, wait, what's that? Like you said UTL? Is that the abbreviation? High
yield savings accounts?
Yeah. See, I was like, wait, what's that? So that's good. So that's what you do then. You help people. So when you help people, Mariela, you want them to be completely transparent with you, right? Like, these are my bank statements. And then you just say, okay, well, I want to know your goals, short and long-term goals. And then you guys just sit down and break down everything.
Yeah. Before we have our first meeting, they'll let me know, I send them a form, and it's just one page, but it'll just kind of give me a picture of where they're at. I want to know, what are your bills? Just like big bills. Do you have a car payment? Do you have student loans? Not every little thing, like how much do you spend on food? Like not yet, just kind of give me like a picture of where you're at, and also tell me, what are your priorities right now? Do you want to learn how to build wealth? Do you want to learn how to budget? Like, do you have an emergency fund? Yeah, so it's just really, it's very like catered to the person, just kind of like a personal trainer. Going back to that, what are your goals? Do you want to gain weight? Some people want to gain weight. Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to build muscle? Do you want to learn how to meal prep? It's pretty much the same thing, except it's just finance now. It's money.
Yeah.
How much is it appropriate to ask? Because I'm like, oh, I need to hire her. I need help with
I
my life.
know. You're about to get 2
Like,
clients right now.
I know, seriously. And I know you have classes, but would you say that you charge the same as a personal trainer?
No.
Yeah,
Um,
it's less.
yeah. No. I think you know what? I think it depends. Like the coach is gonna charge depending on their experience. Um, and so for me, I don't have a lot of experience yet. So I know that right now I'm not charging a lot. And that's on purpose because I'm charging what I think I'm worth right now. And I know a lot, but I also like feel I need a little bit. I just want to get more clients under my belt than what I've had. Um, but I think with, I know like some coaches will charge up to maybe the very experienced who have doing it for who have been doing it for years. I think it goes up to like 400, 500. But I think it could be as low as like $50,
Hmm.
per
Like
session.
per
So to
session.
me, it's affordable.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very affordable. I think if you don't have to cut much, from your life to be able to hire a financial coach. Um,
And could
and
you
each
give
coach
us?
is
Sorry.
different. Sorry. Each
Oh no, I was
coach is
gonna say,
different,
yeah.
but I know for me, I think I I like to start with a series, you know. I think with finance, just kind of like a personal trainer, you're not gonna go one time,
Mhm.
and then that's it. I think you make some sort of commitment. So I think for me, I ask for a 4 month commitment to start. And we only meet once a month because it could be very overwhelming, when you start talking about your money, and especially if you don't even have a budget in place or an emergency fund. um, and we want people to I want my clients to like really make this like a lifestyle, where they're going to leave me and they're going to be able to do what we've learned without me. Because I think that's the only way it works. You have to really, it's a lifestyle change, but it's for the better. And we talk about different things like, we start with the emergency fund, the budget. That's session one. We talk about debt, and then the fourth session ends with building wealth. Now how can you get money? How can you make your money work for you now that you kind of have everything else under control? But even like to create a budget, all the research says, and then I can personally attest to this, it takes about 3 months to really, really like hone it down. The first couple of months are trial and error. You just have to kind of get your numbers right. So that's why I asked for a 4 month commitment to start.
Are there any easy budgeting tips that you can give us? If I know for me, I feel like it's a huge benefit to hire someone like you to, like you said, get started. But are
Mhm.
there anything that you can recommend, even if it's like resources on people who want to start looking? I think the first step would be budgeting, right?
And an emergency fund. Yeah, I think that your emergency fund is so important. You need to have a cushion. You always need to have a cushion. So, and that can range. It can be. I think if you really want to be comfortable, then maybe it'll be 5,000. You know, just to have there, but it could be as low as $1,000 too. Because the point of starting out, even with when you budget, you don't want to blow your budget because your car breaks down in the first month, and then you already feel like forget it, like this budget it's not going to work for me. So I think having an emergency fund, um, but your budget too. And I think as far as resources go, I mean, there's so many. You just literally have to like Google, but I love NerdWallet. Nerdwallet.com is really good. um, their articles are really short, and I think anybody can understand their content. But again, I think short and sweet works for me, and most of their articles are like that. Investopedia is really good too. Investopedia.com. Um, I
Are
think
there
we're,
any podcasts that you say you listen to podcasts? I'm wondering if I
I
do too. I'm a
do.
big fan.
Yeah, so I do I like So Money. It's called So Money by Farnoosh Tarabi. Um she's just also really down to earth. Um and she I think like I like her, or I think I try to gravitate towards things that are taking me out of just like, oh, how can I stay out of debt? You know, I want to start hearing and surrounding myself with how do I build wealth? You know, like that's where I want my mindset to be, because I think especially with um with different cultures, I think like we get stuck with the whole I just need to get out of debt and that's it. But I think there's so much more to that, you know? Like there's so much money out there for everybody. And it's not as hard as people think to get, it's just making these little changes in our lives and, taking that leap to invest, you know? Um, and like you said, a lot of our parents weren't not like that. They were so like, let me hold on to my money, let me keep it safe. I don't want to risk it at all. But if you don't risk anything, you're not giving yourself the chance to grow. And it's the same with your money. You got to risk it sometimes so that you can give yourself the opportunity to grow. And I think listening to like Farnoosh, um, what other can't think of the name. I can send you guys a list later. But
Yeah.
there's another one. Sorry, I can't remember the name. But there's a
If
few.
you, I know this is a like a length, like a deep question, but like if you can give us in like a short, like how do you build wealth? Like what is it? Kind of like if you can, I don't know. I know that's a deep question, so if you give us like a short synopsis of what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it's just putting yourself like not just like working your 9 to 5. You can do that, but looking beyond that, like what am I really good at? Like what maybe I can create something and start selling it on Etsy, and it's also investing, opening these brokerage accounts and like getting yourself some index funds, or even like investing in individual stocks. Um, but the main thing is just to really, again, let's start having these conversations, right? Let's start talking about money and see what people are doing, see what's available out there. Um, but I think the main thing you'll keep hearing is, just diversifying, um, even if you're like, okay, I can't afford to buy a house for myself because it is expensive to own a home, but maybe I have enough to buy a house and rent it out, you know? Um, and real estate like is like a huge way to build wealth, but I know that's buy real estate is just you need a lot of money for that. Let's keep it real.
Mhm.
But you can also invest in real estate by buying stocks. They're called real estate investment trust, REITs, and they have a really good track record. So there's people who never want to own a home or who don't want to be landlords, but who know that there's money to be made in real estate. So they're
Mhm.
going to buy these stocks. And you can start investing with a few $100, And again, I used to think like, God, that's a lot, but it's not.
I'd love to have you back on for an investment conversation because there's so much and I would
Mm-hmm.
love to learn more. My brother Eloy is really into investments right now. He's trying to like get that movement going, but there's just so much, and I feel like the more we talk about it, like you said, the more we can normalize the conversation and because it's so like not accessible. Because I'm like, I don't get this, and then the research that I have to do to get it, it's like extensive, and it's like, is there an easier way? But it's a
Yeah,
whole
I mean,
culture shift.
it is. It is a culture shift. And let me tell you, I love to tell this story that, when I made my first investment, I mean, I was sweating. Like I was in my chair, like because I had opened the brokerage account and then you have to wait a few days because money has to transfer from your checking. So you're not investing yet. So you feel like, okay, I'm comfortable. Um, but when you buy that first, whatever it is you're going to buy, that was really hard. because it's never been done in my family. And I had never, a lot of these things that I'm doing, I feel like I'm doing it for the first time, you know? Um, and it was really scary because I could just hear my parents like, be careful, you know?
Don't do it. Yeah.
Don't waste your money, you know, don't risk your money, just leave it in your bank account where it's safe. But, you know, I know that there's more, you know, and I know that I want to make money in my sleep, like how everybody else is saying, you know?
Mhm.
And I am now. So, and I keep telling people, look, I was a guinea pig, you know, I did it. And I keep telling people, like, it's true what they say. Like, you do make money. You just got to risk it and put yourself out there. And I'm not making decisions blindly. I'm getting informed, but I also, you know, I'm a mom, you know, I'm busy. Like, I
Mhm.
have my job and I have my clients. And so it's not like I have all day to sit and research, but you know, I the little knowledge that I get, I run with it, you know, um, and it's working out so far. So that's what I tell people, like, just do it. Like, you really do just have to do it. And even if it's, like I said, the high yield savings account is the best way to start. I would do that
Can
first.
you can you spell that out for me?
Sure. So high yield, high,
Oh,
HIGH,
okay. Mhm.
yield, YIELD, savings.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. But I would say, like, I would start there. Let
Okay,
that
I'm
be
gonna
your
look into
first
that.
investment because that really is just a savings account and it pays you 0.5%. And I mean that you can access your money so easily. You know, you can transfer it within minutes because then that's another thing people say, like, well, what if I need my money like at that moment? Okay, like you can, like you get it really fast. And all you need to get that is a checking account, which most people have.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I think you convinced me. I need guidance. My parents were not the best example. Sorry, mom, if you're listening, but it's true. I'm 31 and I'm barely like getting my finances situated. And I'm thinking longevity. I'm thinking bigger goals that I do want to invest and stabilize in my life. So I think you might walk away at least with one Prima client.
That's awesome.
I have a closing question, or it's okay. Do you think that, because I always thought the whole credit card thing, you know, we live in a very like materialistic society, like capitalism is how we function. I always was like against, well, I still am, you know, like against a lot of the government. But when I talk
Mhm.
about the government, you know, I'm like, insurance for cars, I feel like that's a marketing scheme. It's like they made it a law and now you have to buy this insurance. When I look deeper into it, it was like, no, that was a decision made by insurance companies and it was just going to create revenue. And I feel like why are we offered credit cards at the age of 18 or even student loans when, and I'm not trying to take away the responsibility, like that was 100% us, but it's like that's a trap to me because how are you supposed to know? They know our parents don't know because they don't have money. So I don't know, I just wanted to see like what you thought about that.
Oh man, you're getting me fired up. I'm like, ooh. Um, you know, I even, well, let's just throw in there like going to college at 18, you know, like how many kids go because they feel they have to, you know, but not because they know what they want, you know, or that they have the life experience. Um,
Yeah.
and that's where I think I was one of those kids that went because that's all I knew, you know, that's what you do, right? You graduate high school, you go to college. So yeah, when, you know, I'm broke, you know, and I'm walking to my classes, but along the way, there's like 3 credit card tables, you know? And I don't know if they're still allowed to be there, but yeah, looking back, I'm like, that should not be okay. That should be legal, you know,
That's like
for,
military recruitment. Remember when they used to do military?
yes,
That's how Robert
yeah,
got recruited. They went to Roosevelt High School and that's how it happened. So that's
yes. Oh no. like I said, you're getting me fired up. Okay. I forgot about that too. But yeah, so, if you're broke, and they're offering you a free t-shirt, for us, like for me, you know, that was a big deal. Like I needed a shirt, or a new towel, or whatever it is, or a water bottle. And I wish that I would have just filled out the application and just left it at that. But no, then you get the card in the mail and you use it, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, that was my downfall. But yeah, no, like even with my daughter now, my oldest, she's 13. But I tell her like I'm trying to open her eyes, and I even talk to her a lot about money, and I show her like the accounts, and I said, look, this is what I did, and I haven't done anything for 2 months, but look at how it's grown, and she's like all into it. She's loving too. So that's like another thing I want to do. I want to provide education for like teenagers, starting
Yes.
from age 13 up, because I wish I would have had that.
Exactly.
So that's definitely, and like I said, I think a lot of people say like, oh, I wish schools would have taught, but I think we have to start, us that have kids, like what are we going to do to change that? Like we have to put it on us now. And even letting them know, okay, when you go to college, there's going to be like, letting them know what we weren't told. There's going to be these credit cards, people offering you credit cards, but this is what can happen, if you choose to accept that. Giving them worst case scenario. But hopefully, we'll teach them to be good with money, and they'll know that credit cards, I mean, unless you have, like I said, you could even have a goal with your credit card. Like for me, it's to get points so that I could do what I love. But it's not so that I can buy me, something like how you said, like it's a consumerist world, that's how we were raised, like to just buy. The weekends were for going to the mall, the weekends were for going out to eat. So now it's like, but again, I mean, it's up to us to change that, and it's up to us to see what kind of life do we want. Do we want our house full of stuff? That's stressful. That doesn't provide well-being, that, I don't know, it just takes time away from living because it's more stuff to clean, and it's a distraction. Yeah. So I agree with you. I wouldn't say I'm against government, but I do. Yeah, I think we could be better as a country for sure. Yeah.
Yes, we can be better. And when I say I'm against government, I mean that like we're so outdated. A lot of the things, it's like they don't apply and they're just getting people in trouble. We're not really thinking, we're not looking out for the best interest of the people. We're like, how can we make a profit out of this? How can we make a profit out of that? And so that's why I'm like, that's a slimy salesperson. Like I don't get away, like that's the kind of the energy that I get. And I've turned into this like caveman. My brother calls me caveman, and I'm like, I guess so. But thank you so much. I feel like we can talk I just have so many questions. So hopefully you enjoyed being here. We would love to have you back.
I would love to be back. I mean, there's so many things to talk about when it comes to finance. Just like we were saying, like today we talked about well-being, like it overlaps in every aspect of our life because unfortunately, we need money. Yeah, we need money to survive in this world. So yeah, thank you so much for having me. And this was a great conversation. And thank you for providing, like I said, I want to normalize finance conversations. So you guys are helping with that. So thank you.
Yay. Thanks so much for your time again. I swear I'm going to hit you up after here because I think I'm ready.
Yay.
Jessica's going to be like, I know we literally just logged off Zoom. Don't tell my cousin.
She's like,
don't tell my cousin, but
stay on.
Don't tell. And she knows Robert too. She's like, Jessica's like, don't tell Robert or Cindy because they're chismosos. They're the chismosos in the family.
No.
No, yeah. I think I think it's important to do investments like this, like you said, invest in yourself. And one of those is like when I invest in personal trainers, like I wanted to get into the gym world, right? And I didn't know what I was doing. YouTube wasn't enough. It's once you get more educated, then it can help. But you know, I kept hurting myself. You know, I get muscle strained, and so I was like, no, I'm gonna have to invest in a personal trainer. And I've worked with like 5 different, and they're so expensive, but the amount of knowledge that I know now, I don't I don't need to get a personal trainer. I could get one like once a year now, like once a month in the year, just to kind of like modify something. But other than that, it's worth it. So
Yeah,
invest
we
in
all need
yourself.
coaches and something.
Yeah, I was a meal prep coach for a little bit. So
Oh, well, I might call you.
yes, call me. We'll have some
Yes.
sort of exchange of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
No, just fine.
We could what do they call it? Barter. We could barter our services.
Yes, I'm
You
down. That's
teach
how
me how
it
to meal
seems.
prep. I'll teach you
Wouldn't that
finances.
be a really cool other way to add into our economic world? Like saying like, hey, what are you good at? Can you teach me? What am I good at? I'll teach you that. That's very
Yes.
community, you know, because we all have our special talents.
You know, I think that's like something the pandemic taught me. Like, I feel like I value community more. A lot. I mean, I always valued it, but now even more, because I feel we really like relied on our network, you know, on my neighbors. Like, I got so close to a lot of my neighbors because, you know, it's just like, are you guys okay? Do you have toilet paper? Yes, I do. You know, or else I could give you some. But yeah, we need to build more community for sure.
Yes.
I like that. So, and you guys are, I don't know, you guys are going to be big.
We hope so.
You're building community here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And before we go, I always like to tell people that sometimes we'll touch on subjects and it's like, if you think differently from us, because we want to kind of combat that cancel culture, you know, it's just like, hey, it's okay for us to think differently than others. It's okay for us to disagree. How can we learn if we close off to like, oh, you think differently than me, I hate you, canceled, I don't want to hear it. And it's like, we need to be better. Like you said, we need to offer solutions. We need to be solutions based. We need to, you know, be optimistic and build community. So thank you for joining our community. You're officially a prima.
Yay! Awesome. That was my goal.
Good. Our goal is to
prima. Yes.
pick your brain. So thank you. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening. Follow us on Instagram at Primas Podcast. Hear us on YouTube every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We drop new episodes. Thank you so much for listening. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.